Friends, welcome once again to our revision for advanced financial management. Remember, we are still doing advanced financial management, and in this session we are looking at May 2015, now question 5. So this is none other than your host, Mr. Spotter Fred. So we'll want to look at question 5. We have looked at question 1, 2, 3, 4 from our previous sessions, and these sessions we want to wind up with question 5 for advanced financial management, May 2015. Now, let's go through it. Says question 5, explain how inflation rates could be used to forecast exchange rates. That's okay. I think we can answer this one directly. So you are required to answer this, you are required to say this. The purchasing power parity theory states that the exchange rates between two currencies is the same in equilibrium when the purchasing power of currency is the same in each country. The theory predicts that the exchange value of foreign currency depends on relative purchasing power of each currency in its own country, and the spot exchange rates will vary over time according to relative price changes. You also need to remember that for you to determine the forward exchange rate that we are going to use in future, that's the forward exchange rate, we are going to take the spot exchange rate, then you multiply that with, we have 1 plus the interest rate, inflation rate of the home country over 1 plus the inflation rate of the foreign country, then you subtract 1. That's what you should do when you are calculating the forward exchange rates. And you need to remember this, friends, that when we talk of IH, this is inflation of home country. This is in respect to the purchasing power parity. Then when you talk of IF, this is inflation of foreign country. Then when you talk of F, this is the forward exchange rates. When you talk of S, this is the spot rate. The spot rate is the rate prevailing at that point in time currently. Now, remember again, we say that this holds true in the long term. For short-term periods, forward rates can be computed using the interest rate parity method theory, which suggests that changes in exchange rates reflect different between interest rates in different countries. That's exactly the position. In fact, that develops our question part B, where we have been told to calculate the annual rate of return on a similar investment in Japan. We have been told this. B, that's part B, assume that the spot exchange rate equals 100 Japanese yen to $1 US, and the 6-month forward rate equals 101 Japanese yen to $1 US. An investor can purchase a treasury bill in the United States that matures in 6 months' time and earn an annual rate of return of 3%. Required, the annual rate of return on a similar investment in Japan. Now, what do they want here? Remember, when we talk of, we are talking about B, we are talking about this was A. B, we are to calculate the annual interest rate. The annual interest rate in which country? The annual interest rate in Japan. The annual interest rate in Japan. Now, one thing you need to remember, Japan in this case is our, we have been told, we can analyze this information first. We realize that the exchange rate equals to 100 Japanese yen for $1 US. So there is $1 US is equals to 100 Japanese yen. That's what we have been told. Then that is the spot rate. That's the spot. That is the spot rate. Then we have also been told in that statement, 6-month forward rate equals to 101 Japanese yen. So the 6-month forward rate, there is $1 is equals to 101 Japanese. This is 6-month forward rate. Then we have also been told from that information, an investor can purchase a treasury bill in the United States that matures in 6 months' time and earn an annual rate of return of 3%. So the annual rate of return is 3%. That's the annual rate of return in United States, in United States. So if an annual rate of return is 3%, what will be for 6 months? No, for 6 months is 1.5%. Just a half of that, which we have got it as 6/12/3. That's how we have got it. Then we have been told. Now we have been told to calculate the annual rate of return for similar investments in Japan. What are we going to do? Here we need to remember that when we calculate the forward, using the interest rate parity, we are going to take the spot, you multiply by 1 plus the interest, the interest rate, let me say interest rate of home country over 1 plus interest rate of foreign country. Now, if we are looking for the annual interest rates, we know that we have the spot rate, we have all these. We can make the interest rates the subject of the formula. Which one do we have and which one we don't have? Remember, we have the foreign country. We're in Japan. Japan is our home country. Home country is Japan. Japan is home country, and we are looking for the interest in the home country. What will be the interest rate in the home country? That's what we are looking for, friends. So what do? We come and say, we have the forward. The forward exchange rate is given to us. That is, we have 101. That's 101. The forward is 101. The spot rate is 100. We have also been given the interest in the foreign country. Interests in foreign country is 1.5%, which is 0.015. So for the 6 months, remember, so you can say that the forward of 101, is equal to 100. You multiply by 1 plus interest of Japan. Let me say J meaning Japan. Then I'll come and say, I love to look at this and say 1 plus the interest rate of US, the foreign country, is 0.015. So we make 1 the subject of the formula. So you come and say this is 1 over 1 of 101 over 100, which will be equal to 1 plus the interests of Japan. Then you divide that by 1 plus 0.015. Make that the subject of the formula. Definitely, you know that we are going to have 101 over 100 by 1, let me call it 1.015. Then we are going to, after that, we subtract 1, we'll get the interest of Japan. Remember, the interest of Japan we get will be only for 6 months. We must multiply by 2 to get it for 1 year. So we come and say, on that note, I take my calculator, friends. I say 101 over 100 by 1.015. Then I subtract 1. Then I'll I'll get that as 0.025. 0.025. That is the same as 2.5%. Because that is for 6 months. So for 1 year, it will be 2.5% times 2, and that is 5%. That's exactly what we were required to answer in this case. So we have the interest as 5% roughly. Remember, we have just we have rounded off to like 2 decimal points or 1 decimal point. So that comes to about approximately 5% per annum. 5% per annum. And that's what you are required to answer in this question. That's question 5B. Now, friends, we move on to question 5C. You have been provided with the following series of exchange rates for the United States, that is US dollar, the Canadian dollar, and the British pound. We have been told the exchange rates is, as you can see from the script there, that $0.06 for 1 Canadian dollar, which can also be written as 1.667 Canadian dollars is equal to 1 US dollar. The next rate we have been given is 1.25 US dollar is equal to 1 sterling pound, British pound. Or it can be written as 0.8 pounds is equal to $1. Then the last exchange rate given there is Canadian dollar, 2.5 Canadian dollar for 1 pound, which can also be written as 0.4 British pound for 1 Canadian dollar. Assume that you have 1 million in cash. Demonstrate how one could take advantage of these exchanges to obtain an arbitrage profit. Remember, when we talk of international finance, when we talk of foreign exchange, we have international arbitrage. There are 3 types of international arbitrage. 1, we have the locational arbitrage. 2, we have the triangular arbitrage, and we also have the covered interest arbitrage. So this one, we are looking at triangular arbitrage. Triangular arbitrage because it's where we are involving dollars, and the fact is the transaction did not involve the exact amount dollars, but we are going to quote. We're going to make a quotation of our transaction in terms of dollars, meaning there are 2 countries which will be involved in these transactions, but will be reflecting our transaction in terms of dollars. So it becomes that we involve the 3rd country, and that becomes a triangular arbitrage. So we want to see how an astute trader can take advantage of this in order to have an arbitrage profit. So I'll come and create some space. So we are talking about question 5C, using a triangular arbitrage to determine triangular arbitrage. This is normally encouraged, or rather is very possible, especially where there are different currencies or different prices or different exchanges in the 3 countries that we are talking about. Like now, the first one, we can now talk about this and say the quote. Like in this, like the first one is 0.06 Canadian dollar, US dollar per 1 Canadian dollar. That means that if you take simply 1 over 0.06, you'll simply get, if you take that is the same, you'll get 1 point. You'll be able to get what they have given us as Canadian dollar 1.667 for 1 US dollar. It's the same. It's just the same. This is how they got it. It's just the same. This is how they got it. The next quote is where we have, and they have told us this is United States, Canadian, and the British. We have been told that the next one is where we have US dollar 1.25 for how many pounds? 1 pound. This can also be written as, if you take 1 over 1.25, you'll definitely get what they have given you there as 0.8. 0.8 per US dollar. The last one, we have Canadian dollars. Canadian dollars 2.5 per 1 pound. This can be written as, if you take 1 divided by 2.5, you definitely get what they have given us there as 0.4 per Canadian dollar. That's exactly what they did. So to express it in other ways, you just simply able to get that, and you are able to get the other inverse of the same. It's the same, it's the same. Even if you use this quote or use this, you'll still have the same answer. Now, one thing we have realized that this is the trader has 1 million in cash. That's 1 million US dollar in cash. So we need to see how we can utilize the 1 million in order to have an arbitrage. So step number one, we must determine the cross exchange rate. So determine the cross exchange rate, which will be expressed in dollars, the cross exchange rate. The main reason for the cross exchange rate is to determine the overvalued or undervalued currency. So you come and say the cross exchange rate is equal to the values in dollars of currency A over the value in dollars of currency B. Now, which is the common quote that is given in dollars? You can be able to look at this and realize that there is a common item here. There is dollars. There is $0.06 for Canadian dollar, $1.25 for 1 pound. So we cannot use this, or we cannot use this. But these two, the first two, they are actually expressed in dollars. They are expressed in dollars. So we can come and say this is 0.06 over 1.25. So what will it be? If I take 0.06, 1.25, I'm getting 0.048. That means that the cross exchange rate means that we have one Canadian dollar is equal to this is, it means like this: 1 Canadian dollar is equal to 0.048 pounds. That's what it means.